JPMorgan Chase are a mega bank, and tomorrow, 19th of May 2026 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time is their annual shareholder meeting. What the bank's own documents ahead of that meeting tomorrow show is that their revenue for 2025 was $185.6 billion. Their profit, which is the money left over after they've paid all of their staff, all of their expenses, all of their taxes, all of their regulatory fines, was $57 billion. That is roughly 30 cents of profit from every dollar that came through the door. The total balance sheet holds $4.4 trillion in assets. For context, the entire UK economy produces about £2.2 trillion a year. JP Morgan's balance sheet is double the size of the UK economy. Every year, JP Morgan is legally required to fill out a 10K annual report for the US Securities and Exchange Commission. On page 120 of that filing is this table labelled Wholesale Credit Exposure Industries. This is JP Morgan telling US regulators, here's every industry that we have lent money to and how much. Look at the industries in this table. Real estate, individuals and individual entities, asset managers, consumer and retail, technology, media, telecommunications, industrials, bank and finance companies, healthcare, utilities, oil and gas, automotive, the government, insurance, chemicals and plastic, transportation, metals and mining, central government, securities, and financial markets infrastructure. So over the last 1 year, JP Morgan loaned $1.54 trillion to landlords, billionaires, hedge funds, weapons manufacturers, oil companies, car companies, which are weapons manufacturers, chemical plants, mining operations, privatized utilities, and other banks. The largest single category on the table is real estate at $224 billion. That is not loans to people buying homes. That is loans to real estate investment firms who are buying up all the homes as an investment asset. Last week we were complaining about how much Jeff Bezos is worth. Jeff Bezos is worth the same amount of money that JP Morgan loaned in 1 year to predatory investors, the institutional landlords who are causing the global housing crisis, the firms who have spent the last 15 years with JP Morgan money buying up all of the homes in our cities. JP Morgan, as their single biggest category of loan, financing the people who are making housing unaffordable. Then the second largest category of loan is just called individuals and individual entities. This is $167 billion that the bank has lent to rich people. In order to even access the JP Morgan private bank that is writing out these loans, you need to have at least $10 million in assets. The Chase Bank current account holders are not individual entities, but their deposits are used as collateral for the loans given to rich people. The third group is asset managers. Asset managers are firms like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Apollo Global Management, Blackstone, Carlyle, Brookfield, and other hedge funds. Meaning JP Morgan gave $152 billion in loans last year to the companies that own JP Morgan. The bank is lending money to its own owners. No conflict of interest there. But when interest gets paid, it flows back through. The next one is consumer and retail, $133 billion in loans to fast food companies, supermarket conglomerates, apparel manufacturers, e-commerce platforms, and the supply chain. This is the bank's exposure to companies that only really exist because of suppressed labour. If wages go up, loan repayments become harder, so the bank has a financial incentive to keep wages suppressed. The next line item is technology, media and telecommunications with $97 million down. This is big tech predominantly. The loans they all needed to take to buy TikTok. This is loans to Microsoft, Google, Meta, This is loans for new data centers. This is loans to surveillance tech, to media conglomerates, and critically, to owning the actual cables. The next one is just labelled industrials. I want to go into the industrials bucket and talk about it in depth with you. But before I leave this table, what do you see as the common through line across these industries that they have chosen to support? Every line item on this table is putting a toll booth on something that humans need and cannot easily opt out of. You need housing, you need energy, you need food logistics and communications infrastructure. You cannot opt out of healthcare or the financial system itself. You have to use the roads, the railways, the water. In a functioning society, these would be things that the government provides, because no human should ever have to negotiate access to the conditions of their survival with a bank earning billions and billions and billions every year. Every single line item in this table is JPMorgan's answer to the question, what can we put between a human being and something that they need to live so that we can earn more money? Now, let's talk about industrials as a category. The SEC allows the banks to choose their own categories, and it does not require any kind of specific taxonomy. So the bank is able to put weapons manufacturers alongside elevator companies and put them all inside industrials. And the same logic can be applied to this category, utilities. Utilities could be a company supplying heat pumps, or it could be a company running a weapons grade enrichment facility. This vague reporting has become the standard practice across US banks because the industry lobbied hard for minimum disclosure. So shareholders and the SEC cannot really find out what the bank is actually doing. To find out, you have to reconstruct the bucket by reading the counterparty's own SEC filings and then the bank's case study page. Its conference programs tell you. So let's have a look at the sales pitch. On their website, JPMorgan have a section called Security and Resilience Initiative. And that makes it much clearer what industrial means. This names the 5 sub-industries that the bank wants to invest into. So this is them telling the government where they are invested. And this is them telling the world where they want to go next. So what's really covered in industrial is supply chain and advanced manufacturing. This is your raw materials, critical mineral mining, advanced manufacturing, shipbuilding and repair, autonomous robots. Then it has pillars for defense and aerospace. This category includes munitions, missiles and hypersonics, mesh networks, 6G, secure communication, space launch, command and control tech, and critical components. It also has a pillar for frontier and strategic technologies. This includes cybersecurity, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, edge computing, and sensor hardware. It even gives you the name of everyone on their Industries Advisory Council. On page 70 of this year's annual report is Jamie Dimon's letter, and it reads, "We are assembling a dedicated 30-plus person SRI Global Banking and Investment team, an external advisory council composed of military generals, former secretaries of state and defense, and business executives and CEOs. We have launched the Security and Resilience Initiative, a $1.5 trillion 10-year plan to facilitate, finance, and invest in industries that are critical to our national security." This is laundering. It is supposed to look like green energy investment. This is a $1.5 trillion program advised by military generals that puts nuclear power at the top, in the same bucket with weapons manufacturers and AI. Dimon wrote this in his letter to shareholders: "Nuclear proliferation remains the gravest threat to the future of mankind." But his bank is the #1 underwriter of the companies who are building the warheads.